You know, it's often the quiet stories, the ones that don't make headlines that really grab you, right? Like the everyday struggles of people just trying to navigate life.
Yeah, for sure.
And that's exactly why we're diving deep today into I'm Speeding Through Emotions Every Mile.
Ooh, that's a title, huh?
Right. By David Adu.
Hmm.
And, well, he's a long-haul truck driver, so we're getting into the emotional world of someone who spends a lot of time on the road. Like really trying to understand what that life feels like.
I mean, that's the beauty of these excerpts, right? Like we get to see inside his head, his thoughts and feelings, and how being a truck driver, which is so physically demanding, also impacts his personal life.
Because it's clear from the get-go that he's not just moving cargo. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He's carrying a whole lot more, like all this responsibility, memories, anxieties.
Right.
I mean, he's a father, a husband, a son, and he's wrestling with this fundamental conflict. Like, how do you provide for your family when your job keeps you away from them?
It's a tough one, for sure.
Yeah. It's a very human struggle, I think, in a way. Like
Yeah.
a lot of us can relate to that, I bet. In some ways, at least.
Totally. And one of the things that really jumps out from David's writing is this intense sense of isolation he describes.
Yeah, he really does.
It's like he paints this incredibly vivid picture of his everyday surroundings. The constant hum of the engine,
Right.
the rattle of the cargo, like even the way the wind like whistles through the cab. It's like the road becomes his only companion in a way.
Right.
This constant presence.
Yeah, I get that. It's almost like it takes on this character of its own in his writing, right?
It does.
Like it becomes this living thing.
Uh-huh.
So I'm curious, how do you think that that intense physical isolation, right? Being alone with just those sounds and the highway, how do you think that shapes his emotional state?
Well, I think there's a pretty clear connection there. Like the physical solitude really seems to amplify the emotional weight he's carrying.
Right.
He doesn't just, mention feeling lonely. He gives us these really poignant images.
Right.
Like the memory of his daughter Lois watching him leave from the window.
Yeah.
Or his son Jaden, just pleading with him to stay.
Yeah.
And the sadness in his wife Sarah's voice,
Yeah.
It's like these moments are constantly with him,
Mm-hmm.
They're not just fleeting things. They're like these constant reminders of what he's missing back home.
And I think that really ties into this big question that seems to run through his whole story, right? Like, what's the real price of the
Yeah.
sacrifice he's making? How long can you, keep speeding through these emotions, as he puts it, before something breaks?
Yeah, you can definitely feel that tension building throughout the whole thing.
Right.
And, as we get deeper into these excerpts, we start to see how this conflict affects even his, daily routine.
Oh, yeah.
He talks about waking up before dawn, never feeling fully rested. It's like this exhaustion is just woven into everything he does.
And then he mentions the silence in his apartment being, suffocating, right?
Yeah, it's really striking.
Because Sarah's gone. She left 6 months before. And it's almost like her absence is this physical present. It's heavy.
Mhm.
And then he recalls her words.
Oh, yeah.
Like, the kids need a father, not a paycheck.
Wow.
And, I mean, that's so raw, right? It just cuts to the heart of his dilemma.
It does.
Like, what do you think, what's the impact of those specific words on him, on his state of mind?
Well, I think it's a constant reminder, right? And a painful one.
Uh-huh.
He's trying to be a good father, in the way he knows how, by providing.
Right.
But her words make him question whether that's enough. Like maybe he's actually creating a bigger void in their lives.
A void that a paycheck can't fill.
Exactly.
And then he talks about these almost like secret visits to his kids while they're asleep. Lois, his teenage daughter, who's becoming more and more distant, and then little Jaden, just sound asleep, innocent. It's such a sad but beautiful image.
It is.
Like his love for them is so real, but it's expressed in this strange way.
Right.
He's there, but he's not really present in their lives.
Yeah, it's a real paradox, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. What do you think? What does that say about the nature of love and responsibility?
Well, I think it shows how complicated it can be.
Uh-huh.
I mean, he's acting out of love, he wants to provide, but at the same time, it's causing this distance. Like it raises the question, what does it actually mean to be present, even when you can't physically be there?
Wow. And then he finally gets out on the open road, right? And the monotony of that long-haul driving, all those miles, it seems to really fuel his internal reflections.
Yeah, he talks about the lack of distractions,
Right.
how being on the highway kind of forces you to confront your own thoughts.
Yeah. And then there's this idea of like ghosts in the rearview mirror.
Oh, yeah, that's a powerful metaphor.
What do you think that means, in the context of his story?
I think it suggests that even though he's moving forward physically, the past is always there.
Uh-huh.
It's like his memories, his regrets, his fears, they're all right there in his field of vision, shaping his present.
So you can't outrun them.
Not really. You carry them with you.
And he specifically mentions this fear of becoming like his own father, right?
Oh.
Always working, always gone.
Right.
He wanted to be different, but he's found himself trapped in the same cycle.
It's tough to break those patterns,
Yeah. What do you think, like, what does that say about the power of ingrained habits, and maybe even societal expectations?
Well, I think it shows how deep-seated these things can be. Like, even when you're aware of the potential downsides, the pressure to provide, the way we're taught to think about work, it can be really hard to break free.
Right. And then there are these little flashes of memory, these intimate moments with Sarah. Her
Yeah.
laugh, her resting her head on his shoulder.
Little things.
Yeah, but now they feel so distant, right? And then the reality hits,
Yeah.
Their connection faded, she left, and her final words about feeling like a single mother, the kids barely knowing him, that's harsh.
Yeah, it is.
How do you think those fragmented memories affect him now, emotionally?
Well, I think they're both comforting and painful.
Hmm.
It's like they remind him of what he had, what he's lost, or is losing.
Right.
And the contrast between those warm memories and his current reality, it probably intensifies his regret, and that desire for change, even if he doesn't know how to make it happen.
And then he talks about those specific events he missed.
Yeah.
Lois's school play, Jaden's first soccer goal, huge moments in his kids' lives.
Right.
And the detail he provides, like him watching the video of the goal from his truck parked outside a warehouse, it's so isolating.
It is.
What do you think, like, what's the emotional weight of those missed moments for him?
Oh, I think it's huge.
Uh-huh.
Like it's a concrete representation of his absence. Those experiences he can never get back.
Mm.
And, watching a video is just not the same, right?
No, of course not.
It just emphasizes the distance that's grown between them.
And that guilt, right?
Yeah.
It just seems to follow him everywhere. Even when he stops for gas, there's this moment where he hesitates to call Lois.
Oh.
All those unspoken apologies.
What do you think stops him from making that call?
Oh, I don't know. It could be so many things, right?
Right.
Maybe fear of her resentment or just not knowing what to say after all this time. Like the weight of those unsaid things just creates this awkwardness, this distance. It makes reaching out feel impossible almost.
Yeah, that's really common, when relationships have these rifts.
Yeah, and then the storm hits.
Oh, wow.
Literally and figuratively. He describes this sudden, violent weather, but it so clearly mirrors his inner turmoil.
Yeah.
And there's this instinct to just keep driving, keep pushing forward, right? Like stopping is failing.
Yeah, even when everything's falling apart around him.
What do you think drives that need to keep going, in the face of all that?
I think it's that sense of responsibility.
Uh-huh.
Like the ingrained work ethic of his profession.
Right.
Truck drivers face these crazy deadlines.
Yeah.
So stopping, even in dangerous weather, can feel like letting everyone down.
Right.
So that external pressure probably just adds to his internal resistance,
Uh-huh.
Like he doesn't want to admit that he's breaking down.
And you can feel his panic rising.
Holy.
He describes his chest tightening, his breath getting short, white knuckles gripping the wheel. It's like, it's a breaking point.
Yeah.
Like the external chaos just amplifies the storm inside him.
Right.
So what do you think, what's the significance of him finally pulling over?
I think it's a moment of self-awareness, a hard-won one, but important.
Mm-hmm.
He's finally admitting that he can't keep pushing it down, that it's not sustainable,
Yeah.
It could even be dangerous.
And in that moment, he reaches for something real, something to hold on to, right?
Yeah.
He finds his phone and looks at his wallpaper.
Just a simple image.
A happy memory with Lois and Jaden. It's like a reminder of what really matters, even when everything feels like it's slipping away.
Yeah. What do you think? Like, how does that image act as an anchor for him?
Well, I think it's a visual representation of his love for his kids, right? this tangible link to the life he wants outside of the truck.
Right.
It grounds him, you know?
It reminds him of his purpose.
And then he makes that impulsive call to Sarah.
Yeah.
He just blurts out, I don't know if I can do this anymore.
Wow. That's raw.
So vulnerable. And her response, you're doing the best you can. The kids know that. I know that. It's like a lifeline, you know?
It is.
It's not a complete reconciliation, but it's something. It's hope.
What makes her response so significant, do you think?
I think it's the empathy, you know?
Yeah.
The validation. He's been beating himself up, feeling like a failure.
Right.
And she just offers him this understanding. It's like a crack of light in the darkness.
Powerful.
And that brings us to this idea of detours, right?
Yeah.
These unexpected connections he makes on the road that change his perspective.
Like with Joe, the older driver.
Yeah, who's dealing with his own deep loneliness after losing his wife. What's the significance of that shared experience, you know, between two people in such different circumstances?
I think it speaks to how universal these feelings are.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they're at different stages in life. They're on the road for different reasons, but they're both profoundly lonely.
Yeah.
And that shared vulnerability creates this connection, you know?
Right.
It makes them feel less alone.
Mm.
It shows that these feelings are just part of being human, especially in jobs that keep you isolated.
And then there's Maria.
The single mom.
Yeah, driving to provide a better life for her daughter. Her story is so similar to David's in a lot of ways, right?
Yeah. Okay.
And they have this conversation in a diner.
Hmm.
And Maria shares what her daughter said, Mom, I don't care if we live in a small house as long as you're home more. And that just hits David hard.
It does.
Why do you think those words are so impactful for him?
Because they echo his own fears,
Yeah.
right? It's
Yeah.
like his deepest worries are being spoken out loud by someone else.
Mm.
It validates his own feelings, you know,
Right.
that maybe he's focusing on the wrong things.
That providing comes at a cost.
Yeah.
And it's that realization, that echo of his own guilt that makes him decide that something has to change.
Yeah, it's like a turning point.
He starts to see these detours, these encounters, not just as interruptions, but as like paths leading him in a new direction.
They give him new perspectives. You know,
Yeah.
they make him question his assumptions
Yeah.
about work and family. The detours become these catalysts for change.
And then we see him actually making those changes.
Small changes, but meaningful.
The nightly phone calls to Lois and Jaden.
Yeah.
And Lois is hesitant at first, but they slowly start having these real conversations.
And she asked that question, are you coming home soon?
Oh, man, that's loaded, right?
It really is.
Yeah.
It shows how much his absence affects her.
And the postcards.
Yeah. Little reminders.
He describes a sunset that reminds him of Lois's painting, a glimpse of a city he wants to explore with Jaden.
He's trying to connect, you know,
Yeah.
even from afar.
It's like these little threads tying him to their lives.
And then he starts taking shorter routes, turning down the long-haul jobs.
Yeah, even though it means less money.
It shows his priorities are shifting.
Right, he's valuing time with his family over the paycheck.
And that leads to his return home.
The anticipation in that scene is so real, right?
It is.
Sarah's car in the driveway, the porch light on,
He's finally back.
and then he sees Lois and Jaden on the front steps.
The reunion.
It's so emotional. He says he feels whole again.
After all that time.
What do you think? What makes that moment so powerful?
Well, I think it's the culmination of everything he's been working towards.
Hmm.
The self-reflection, the changes he's made. It's like a reward for all that effort.
Yeah.
He's finally back where he belongs.
And Sarah, she's guarded, understandably, but she says those words, "We missed you."
A small step, but an important one.
Yeah, it's a start. And his decision to stay, not just physically, but really be present, that's huge.
It's a turning point for their family.
And even though he's still driving, his perspective has completely changed.
Yeah, the miles don't feel the same anymore.
It's not about distance from his family, it's about moving towards something better.
Mm-hmm.
He uses those phone calls now, you know, to fill the silence, to connect with his kids.
Proactive, you know.
Right.
He's not just enduring the distance anymore. He's actively trying to bridge it.
And his interactions at truck stops, they're different too, right?
Yeah, he finds understanding with Joe and Maria.
Yeah.
They share their experiences, their hopes.
And Sarah, she's showing those small signs of warmth. It's not a complete reconciliation, but it's something.
It shows progress,
Yeah.
you know, little by little.
And that final image, him coming home, seeing Lois's light go out,
She knows he's done.
it's like this unspoken acknowledgement.
Yeah.
And he's looking ahead now, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Seeing the future in his rearview mirror, a future where he's present, where he shows his love. The road isn't just about providing anymore, it's about moving towards a better life.
It's beautiful.
So, I mean, thinking back on David's journey, what are the big takeaways here, you know?
Well, I think it shows the emotional toll that trying to balance it all can take.
Yeah.
Work, family, everything.
The weight of regret, but also the power of small, consistent effort.
Right.
Like just those little things we can do to stay connected, to bridge the distance.
Ultimately, it's about finding our way back to what really matters.
And that leads us to our final thought for you today. Thinking about David's reflections, you know, consider the silent struggles that the people around you might be facing as they try to find that balance in their own lives.
What are the detours?
Yeah, and where are they hoping to go? You know, maybe take a moment to think about your own life, your own efforts to provide and be present.
It's a good question.
What small changes could make a difference for you?
Yeah. Something to think about.
It really is.